So here at school, we're lucky to have shelves, and hopefully you have some sort of shelf or storage space available in your home as well that's purely dedicated to your child's items and your child's belongings. And if so, then this is a great way that you can set it up and get it ready for them to be an independent learner. I'm going to go through what I have on our shelf. And then there are a lot of things on the shelf right now. I would probably do 1 to 2 items less on each shelf if you do have a shelf like this. The reason I put so many items out was so that you guys can see a few different examples of activities that you may be able to incorporate around with things that you have around your home. And then also meet the needs of a few different age groups. So we're going to start on top here, okay? This here is a simple pouring work that we've made a little bit more of a challenge to by using a measuring cup. So this is really easy for you to recreate at home if you have any sort of pouring vessels at all. Pitchers, cups, measuring cups, small bowls, ramekins, things like that, and they can use to practice pouring water. And like I said, if they are older, you can add some layers of difficulty to it by pouring in a funnel, pouring into multiple containers, pouring into a container with a smaller opening, and like I said, also even measuring out a different amount of liquid. And for this, one of the extensions we have is we have additional measuring cups here. So a lot of us have measuring cups and pitchers at home. And the sponge is used to clean up any spills. The next one we have is a simple scooping. This is also measuring. Before we left school, we were talking about food preparation and measuring. So 1 cup says TBSP, tablespoon, 1 TSP. Then we've got a tablespoon and a teaspoon. A lot of you guys have these at home. So what they do is they would just take the tablespoon and take a scoop and put it into the tablespoon. And they would continue on, and then when they're done, they pour the beans back in. And this is a great way to practice fine motor control as well as the practical life application of learning about different measurements. And most of us have beans, rice, or cereal at home, and measuring spoons and small cups. And that's all you really need for that. So the next thing we have is grating cinnamon. So we have our cheese grater here, and we always teach them to hold just the top. And we have some cinnamon. And then we have a bowl for them to grind the cinnamon. Any sort of food preparation is really fun and enjoyable for the children at this age. And they also get the practical life application of learning how to do different things around the kitchen and the independent aspect by being able to take care of themselves. Other examples are banana slicing, spreading peanut butter or even butter on crackers, cutting apples, juicing lemons. There's many different food preparation ideas that you can do with the children. And then another thing that a lot of the children have been interested in our class is transferring water. So this is a bulb blaster. And we have 2 containers, whatever kind of containers you have. And most of us have one of these at home to baste our meats in. And so you would just fill 1 container with water. And you show the child first how to do it. Squeeze. And you do it until all the water's in the 1 container. And then you show them how to transfer it back. Next, we just have some plain paper and crayons for them to color. If you have ditto sheets or coloring pages, you can put those out too. You don't want to put too many of one type of art material out because it does become overwhelming for them, and then it also gets it does tend to be overused as well. Okay, and next we have some books here. I just have a small selection. Some fiction books like The Magic School Bus. Then we have some nonfiction books here. Have a nice mix. And so these here, the pouring, scooping, and the food preparation and the water transfer are all called practical life activities. You can search for practical life activities on Pinterest or in the blogs that I posted on our Facebook page earlier this month. Next we have our cultural area, and here we have, this is classification of living and non-living things. So all you really need are two labels, living and non-living, and then pictures or small objects of living and non-living things for the child to sort. We have the same thing here. This one is animals and plants. And then as you see, I've collected some objects. So you just go around through your child's toys and see what kind of objects you have that they can separate or classify things with. This is another work that the children have really been interested in the class, and you probably have some things around your home that you could make this with. This is magnetic and non-magnetic. And you see we have a wand magnet here, but if you don't, if you just have a magnet from your refrigerator, you can try that as well. And then I have simple little objects around here, cork, a small dinosaur, a lid, we've got a bolt, we've got a small pail, and a star magnet. And then they just separate them out, magnetic and non-magnetic. So you would just gather those items and put them in a small basket. Any sort of puzzles you have, this is a floor puzzle, The Very Hungry Caterpillar, because Miss Landry read us this story earlier in the month, so I thought it'd be fun to put this out. But you just want to put one or two puzzles out at once. If they have access to a lot of different materials, sometimes it's harder for them to choose. It's easier if we kind of narrow down those choices as to what they're interested in at this time. And then here we have just a nice, simple nature tray. We've got a, looks like a wasp's nest, and then we've got a bird's nest, and there's a little bit of corpulite, which is dinosaur poo. And then we've got a starfish here, and then a magnifying glass. So you can make a nature tray really easily. And actually, the children really like to make nature trays at school. They'll find really cool things from outside on the ground and ask if they could bring it in. So that's a really nice, easy way that you can make a nature tray. Next down here, we have our art shelf. And so a lot of us have Mardi Gras beads left. And so we've got simple cutting work with Mardi Gras beads. And that's great to practice their scissor skills. And it's something that a lot of us have around the house right now. This is a color mixing activity. If you have food coloring and then 3 small containers, you don't even really need eyedroppers. They can use spoons to scoop the different colored water into the containers here and see what happens when they mix the different colors. And I'm going to be putting a lesson up in a little while on this work. And then here we have some paints. If you have any watercolors at home, you can just put out for them to grab. And then this is our sensory bag. This is pretty easy to make at home too. All you do is gather objects from around your home. You can make a key here like we did, where you just draw the objects, but you don't have to. It is easier for them to use it independently when you make a key. And then inside this bag here is each of the objects. So they would just reach in, and then they can say what they think they feel. I think that this is the fleur-de-lis. Let's see. It is. And then they would put it on top of the fleur-de-lis, like that. So that's a pretty simple work that you can make with objects you have around your home. And we're going to come down here to the math shelf. And the first math is a one-to-one correspondence work. It's pretty easy to make at home. All you need to do is find some numeral cards and then put the number of objects that match the numbers. So see, this has 1 heart, And then the 2 has 2 hearts, and so on and so forth. And this way they can match. So this is a one-to-one correspondence. They put one object on top of one sticker. And so all you really need to do is have your papers from 1 to 10 with the numerals on it, and then have enough objects, 54 objects, 55 objects, I'm sorry, 55 objects, and then they can count and do the one-to-one correspondence from there. So all you really need for our cards and counters are your numbers from 1 to 10, and then 55 objects, 55 things to count. And in May, we usually celebrate mothers, and Miss Sanford, I'm sure, will teach us this poem, but we do a really fun poem about high heels. So I've got high heels to count. Next, I think we all have some coins at home. If you have some coins at home and you have 4 containers, you can do a coin sorting activity. And basically what you do, inside of this container, I have some plastic coins. And then you see my control of error, or the way that the kids can do it on their own without me, is that I have a picture of each coin on the outside. And then that way they can match the coin to the container it belongs in. And so this is a simple sorting activity that can be extended upon by introducing the quantity that each coin is worth. And then you can start doing more additional activities from there, like trying to find a certain quantity by using coins to add up, and different things like that. The next one is one that Miss Sanford gave us a lesson on. I believe it was Miss Sanford. Yes. Roll and count addition. So this is just roll and count. There's no addition. And you see we still have our St. Patrick's Day stuff out. But what you do with this is you roll the die, and you count, and then you find the number and you cover it up. So this is another pretty easy one to make at home. If you have a die, if you have small objects that they can use to cover up, and then there are a lot of these that you can print on Teachers Pay Teachers, or I will also post a few on our Facebook page too. That way that you can print them out and use them at home. But the children really enjoy this. With one die, you can use it for counting and recognizing the numeral to the quantity. With 2 or 3 dice, you can use it as an addition activity. And the last thing on our math shelf is something that Miss Landry gave us a lesson on today, and that is greater than less than. So with the greater than less than, what I have here is I have 2 different types of objects. I have small discs, and I have small cubes here. And then I have our greater than less than symbol, and I have numerals. So this is pretty easy. I will give a lesson on this one also in a little while. But if you don't have these beautiful wooden numerals like we do here, you can just write numerals on a piece of paper. And then you leave this workout for your child to use. Last, we have some selections from our language area. Now, the language area and the math area in particular are areas that you're really going to want to focus on where your child is at right now when you select the materials that you're going to put out. So for right now, I do have a broad range of materials for different skill levels. So the first thing we have are simple pictures that your child can use to identify and increase and enhance their vocabulary. You can put out pictures of different types of machines or different types of plants, and then teach them the words, teach them the language and the vocabulary. And then that will, like I said, broaden their horizons and increase their vocabulary. The other thing they can do is use them for storytelling and for sequencing. If you don't have access to a printer, you can cut pictures out of old magazines and do the same thing, have your child tell you different stories about them. Next, we have some popsicle stick puzzles. These are really easy to make at home. If you have popsicle sticks, you just push 4 or 5 popsicles together, draw a picture out on the popsicle stick, color it in, and then leave it out for your child to use. And these are our St. Patrick's Day popsicle sticks. We added an additional layer of difficulty with ours by putting lowercase letters on the bottom. And then that way they are working on their letter sequencing also. The next are our letter sound boxes, and we have two different levels here. So we have pictures with the letters, and we have objects with the letters. So all you really need to make a letter box at home are either objects that start with the same letter, pictures that start with the same letter, pictures that start with the same letter, or you can mix and match. And then you also need a representation of the letter. If you have flashcards, you can use that. If you have magnetic letters, or you can even make your own sandpaper letters like we have at our school here at home. And I do have a tutorial on that if you're interested. But so all you need is a representation of your letters and then different objects that have the phonetic sound. So, for example, you don't want to pick a giraffe for the letter G because the letter G's phonetic sound is G, not J. Same thing for A. You don't want to choose something like apron because it has the long A sound. You'd want to choose something like apple instead because it says A. And so we do like to start with objects first because they are more tangible, but then you can move on to pictures afterwards, and they just sort them by the letter sound. And you can check out Miss Sanford's video on the Facebook app if you want a little more in-depth explanation on how to do the letter sound sorting. Next, we have some simple puzzles here that reinforce what goes together. So these are different community helpers, and then you have the objects that they use also. So we have, I think that's a bus, so the bus driver would use that. And then they go together. Okay. So if you have any puzzles at home, if they have a lot of different matches, what you want to do is you only want to have a few matches. You don't want to put 10, 15 matches in there. 4 or 5 will be good, and then you can change them out the next week. That way it keeps it fresh and it keeps the child going back to the work. Next we have some handwriting, printing practice. We have this dry erase book here. If you don't have a dry erase book at home, you can print out or come to school and get some printables, and you can put them inside of a page protector, and then that way they can be reused over and over again and wiped down with your dry erase eraser. And lastly, we have sort of at-home movable alphabet. So a lot of us have our magnetic letters at home. So all you need are magnetic letters and small objects here that they could spell. If they're still working on phonetics, you want to have all of the objects be phonetic objects. Mask, fan, and frog. If they're working on blends, then you can start introducing different things, different blends as well with the words. But you want to make sure you have enough of the letters for each word, okay? And all they would do is put the object out and spell the word. And there will be a lesson on this posted on Facebook soon too. Okay? And that is our language area, and you have a broad spectrum of different areas of interest and different sensitive periods too.